There is a mountain in Northern California that doesn't quite behave the way mountains are supposed to. It rises nearly 14,200 feet above the surrounding landscape. A massive, snow-capped stratovolcano standing alone on the horizon, visible for over 100 miles in every direction. From a distance, it looks clean and simple, majestic, even serene. But the closer you get to Mount Shasta, the stranger things become. For centuries, perhaps for thousands of years, this mountain has been at the center of some of the most persistent and layered mysteries in North America. Not just one mystery, but many. They come from different traditions, different cultures, different eras, and yet they all seem to converge on the same place. The local indigenous tribes who have lived in Shasta's shadow since long before written history will tell you the mountain is sacred in ways that go far beyond ceremony. Researchers and experiencers from the modern era describe encounters in its forests with creatures that don't appear in any biology textbook. Pilots, military personnel, and ordinary hikers have reported lights in the sky over the peak that move in ways no known aircraft can explain. And then there are the stories, strange, elaborate, and surprisingly consistent, about an ancient civilization said to be living right now inside the mountain itself. Whether you believe any of that or not, what's undeniable is this. Something about Shasta keeps drawing people in. Researchers, seekers, skeptics, mystics. They all make the journey, and very few leave without a story to tell. Shasta is a stratovolcano, part of the Cascade Range that runs from British Columbia down into Northern California. It's one of the largest volcanoes in the Cascades by volume, and it is very much still active. What makes Shasta unusual even among volcanoes is how isolated it is, rising from a broad, flat plain in a way that makes it seem almost deliberately placed. The mountain also generates its own weather. It's famous for lenticular clouds, enormous, disc-shaped formations that hover motionless over the summit for hours at a time. These clouds look, frankly, exactly like the popular image of a flying saucer. Some researchers argue this accounts for many of the UFO sightings here. Others point out that witnesses describe lights and movements that cloud formations simply can't explain. The region around the mountain is also full of lava tubes, underground rivers, and cavern systems, a detail that becomes important as we go further. The Shasta people, the Modoc, the Achumawi, the Wintu, these are the indigenous nations who have inhabited the region for generations beyond counting. For each of them, the mountain carries deep spiritual weight. The Shasta people traditionally believed that the Great Spirit descended to Earth by way of the mountain, using it as a kind of cosmic staircase. The summit was sacred ground. To approach it carelessly was considered genuinely dangerous, not metaphorically, but in a very real sense. The Wintu people's oral histories describe the area around Shasta as home to beings and presences that occupy a different order of reality than ordinary humans. Across several regional traditions, there are accounts of strange lights on the mountain, particularly at night. And crucially, these lights were not considered unusual. They were expected. They were part of what the mountain did. When modern observers began reporting anomalous lights over Shasta in the 20th century, they framed it as a new phenomenon. But the indigenous people of the region might have said, "This is not new. We have been watching those lights for a very long time." Northern California and the Pacific Northwest are among the most consistently reported locations for Bigfoot encounters in North America. And the Siskiyou County region around Mount Shasta has an extensive sighting history going back well before the term Bigfoot was coined in 1958. Indigenous people of the region have long described large, bipedal beings in the forests, not as animals in the conventional sense, nor entirely as spirits, but as beings that belong to the forest in a deep and fundamental way. In the modern era, the Shasta area has produced dozens of documented encounter reports. The patterns are familiar: large bipedal figures seen at the tree line, massive footprints in mud or snow, vocalizations that don't match any known animal. But some accounts here carry elements that go beyond typical wildlife sightings. Witnesses describe feeling watched for long periods before any visual contact. Some report a strange mental pressure or disorientation in the moments before a sighting. A number of researchers have noted that the density of reported encounters seems notably higher on and around the mountain itself, and that the overlap between Bigfoot sightings and other anomalous phenomena at Shasta is harder to dismiss than in most locations. Mount Shasta has one of the longer UFO sighting histories of any location in the United States, stretching back at least to the 1930s. The reports range from simple, unexplained lights over the summit to accounts of structured craft, missing time, and apparent contact with non-human intelligences. The lenticular clouds account for some of this, but not all of it. Some of the most compelling reports come from nights with perfectly clear skies, and several involve multiple independent witnesses observing the same object from different locations at the same time. Local residents near the towns of Mount Shasta City and McLeod describe unexplained aerial sightings as simply part of living near the mountain. Not a rare event, not cause for alarm, just something that happens here with a regularity that doesn't match anywhere else they've lived. What researchers find particularly striking are accounts, submitted independently, over many decades of craft that appear to be not merely flying over the mountain, but descending toward it or ascending from it, using it as a destination. Several of these accounts focus specifically on the remote north and northeast face, and that detail connects directly to the strangest tradition of all. The story goes like this. Inside Mount Shasta, there is a thriving subterranean civilization, the descendants of Lemuria, an ancient and highly advanced continent said to have existed in the Pacific Ocean before sinking beneath the waves in a catastrophic event tens of thousands of years ago. The survivors established themselves deep inside the mountain. They are tall, often described as 7 feet or more, with fair skin and reddish or golden hair. They possess technology and spiritual knowledge far beyond our own, and occasionally they surface. They are seen in the forests near the mountain, on the trails, even in the nearby towns, briefly, inexplicably, and then they return to the mountain and they are gone. The origins of this narrative are traceable. In 1899, Frederick Spencer Oliver published a book called A Dweller on Two Planets, which he claimed was channeled through him by a spiritual entity, describing a Lemurian civilization connected to Shasta. In the 1920s, Guy Ballard, who would go on to found the I Am Activity religious movement, claimed a direct personal encounter with a Lemurian master on the mountain slopes. He said he met a very tall and very strange being who revealed the existence of the inner civilization and shared extensive spiritual teachings. By the 1930s, this mythology had gained enough traction to be covered by major newspapers. People were making pilgrimages to the mountain hoping for contact. That pilgrimage continues today. The geological evidence for a sunken Pacific continent doesn't hold up to scrutiny. But what's interesting is that the specific descriptions of these encounters, tall, fair figures in unusual clothing, appearing briefly on remote trails and then vanishing, have been reported independently by people with no knowledge of the Lemurian tradition whatsoever. No prior exposure to the mythology, no spiritual seeking, just hikers and locals who saw something they couldn't explain and described it in terms that, without knowing it, echoed accounts going back 100 years. That pattern is something researchers take seriously regardless of what explanation they favor. What makes Mount Shasta genuinely compelling as a subject of inquiry is not any single category of mystery, but the way all of these threads wind around each other. Indigenous traditions across multiple distinct cultures, identifying the mountain as home to non-human presences. A century of UFO sightings with unusual specificity about the mountain as a destination. Bigfoot encounters carrying elements that exceed ordinary wildlife sightings. A persistent subterranean civilization tradition described consistently by people with no shared cultural influences. And underneath all of it, a geologically complex, volcanically active mountain rising alone from the landscape. Some researchers describe Shasta as what they call a window location, a place where anomalous phenomena cluster more densely than in the surrounding area, for reasons that aren't yet understood. There are a handful of other places on Earth with similar reputations, and what they tend to share is geographical isolation, geological complexity, and histories of unusual encounter that go back long before the modern era. The indigenous people who have called this place home since before any of the modern mythology existed would likely say none of this is surprising. The mountain is alive. It has always been alive. The only thing that has changed is that more people are starting to pay attention. Whether you approach Mount Shasta as a believer, a skeptic, or simply someone who finds the questions more interesting than any available answers, the mountain rewards that attention. It is, at minimum, one of the most beautiful and geologically dramatic places on the continent. At maximum, it may be something else entirely, a place where the rules we rely on to understand the world around us simply don't apply in the same way. The mountain will still be there when we figure it out, or when it decides to tell us. Subscribe to Paranormal Depths for the strangest and most compelling cases from around the world.